Hey guys, it's Laurie of Laurie Sewing, and today's video is going to be kind of it's Friday, so I've got all these little tail end of projects that I want to talk about. And by the way, welcome. I know I have some new subscribers, and I'm glad you're here. But let's see, we're going to start off with the folding up of patterns. I have this one piece left out. So the way that I fold up pattern pieces, and this is from the shirt that I made, the 7122 Simplicity, and we did View A, which I'm going to talk about in just a minute. But I wanted to discuss pattern folding. So the way I do it, I don't get too carried away with getting all the wrinkles out. It is more about accessibility and the time-saving aspect of putting a pattern away, basically putting it to bed for a while in case you know, if you want to make it again, which I do, I really want to make this again. But you want to be able to find the pattern pieces that you need. We obviously don't need, well, the pocket we don't need, and we don't need the two pieces that go with the top. So we don't need this, and we don't need these pieces. So what I want to be able to do is just reach in here and get the sleeve, the front, the collar, the facing, and the back. That's all I need. So when I fold them up to put them away, or after I have cut my fabric out, I make sure that I can figure out what they are by the number. Now I know that if I picked it up out of the packet like this, I would know that it's a 6 because the words are upside down, but I want to do at a glance. So when I have a 6 or a 9 that I'm using, I write the word on here. So the next time I reach into this pattern envelope, I'll know, even if that's upside down, I'm going to know that it's 6. So that's the first thing that I look for. And then I just make sure that it's going to be, I'm going to be able to just reach in here and pull out pattern pieces. If I see something like this that I don't see a number on, this is clearly something I don't need. This is clearly something I don't need. So I just fold that up. It will go in, but I don't need it because I can't see the number. So, okay, so here's the front facing. This is the buttonhole guide, which I chose not to use, and we're going to talk about that in just a minute. Here's the front, here's the back, and this is a cuff, I believe, that I don't need because, yeah, I'm not doing the short sleeve version, so I can just put it away in here. Anytime I can't see a pattern number, I know it's for something I either have not made yet or I don't want to make. So these will all be completely visible to me. These I don't need. And it doesn't matter. Usually I just dump them, I just dump it all out, and then I reach in and pull out the collar, just like that. So I'm going to put this one away because I've done everything. All I have to do is check to make sure that I have all of the pages of the instructions. Sometimes they migrate. They might go over to the ironing board, or they might go into a different room if I'm cutting something out on a bigger surface. I have a tiny sewing room, and a tiny sewing room sometimes means that you have to go somewhere else to cut something out. So what I do is I look for page 1. Page 1 is almost always the one that has the guide drawing on the front. So I have page 1, which means I have page 2. I have page 3 of 3, and this is obviously the last page. So I have all of the instruction pages that can go back. And now, probably, hopefully, the next time I make this pattern, everything I need will be right here. It's ready to go in my sewing cabinet, the plastic bin that I keep my patterns in. So that's taken care of. The other thing I have to deal with is my leftover fabric. And I want to make sure that I fold it properly. When I open this up the next time, I really don't want to have to deal with a whole bunch of these little shreds. I'm not going to be using them, and they're more like cabbage. So this gets cut off, if I can find my scissors, because everything is in complete disarray. Here we go. All right, so I'm going to trim this right there. It's basically the selvage with a little extra piece right here. And these are obviously usable. I will use them for something, somewhere down the line. But they go in my little cabbage fabric basket. And I'm going to check it, make sure that it didn't get damaged in some way, if it has a stain that needs to be dealt with. And I do have a little piece of selvage left here. So I'm going to fold it up the way that I would want to find my piece of fabric, with the selvages at a certain point. Okay. I also don't want to wrinkle it too much. Now, if I had a need to know for a project I was working on using this fabric specifically, I would write how much it is on here. It's good information to just have it, but when you've been sewing and handling fabric as long as I have, you can kind of get an idea of what's here. But again, if I were going to be making something that required a yard of fabric or a half a yard of fabric, I would write it. Okay, so there's one piece. There should be three. Here's a small little weirdly shaped fabric scrap that will not go with my other large pieces. This is more of a scrap. The main thing I want to do is just keep it flat. I'm looking at it to make sure it doesn't have any damage. I don't see any stains or a pull, you know, a snag or something. All right, so that one goes in a different place. This will definitely go in a different place. This is a piece of cabbage. Okay, here are selvages. I'll just leave them folded like they are. And looking at it for stains or snags, I don't see anything. Okay. And one thing to remember too is if you personally don't have an interest in saving your fabric, let's just say that you don't have a place to store it, or for whatever reason, once you've used a piece of fabric, you're just done with it, and you have pieces of fabric like this. There are a lot of places that have fabric swap meets, fabric stores sometimes will do it, sewing stores, quilting guilds, Saga, the Smocking Arts Guild of America. Places like that will very often be happy to either swap out. Sometimes it's called the 1 yard swap, or, you know, I don't know what all they call it, but you can easily find new fabric for your old fabric. My biggest request is please don't throw it away, because somebody can use it, and also the amount of fabric textiles in landfills is mind-boggling. So we don't need to add to that horrible issue. So, okay, so these are for my regular fabric stash. This is for scrap, and this is my cabbage. Okay, so I have a little bit of this that goes with this one, and then I have things that I have made that I'm not sure what I'm going to do with yet, but I'm certainly not going to get rid of them. Again, someone out there would love to have these. So they are giveable. They're usable. These two are so cute. I might do something with these. I don't know. And then I've got these prairie points. You know, there's not a whole lot of them, but you could supplement with a solid color and do something fun, or you could just do something small. They're great for applique. Be really cute. But in any case, I don't throw these either. I just store them in a different place. I used to store all this kind of stuff in a jar, and I outgrew the jar, so now I'm just reusing a plastic bag that I received in the mail. You know, you get these all the time. They have a zip top. You can easily reuse something like this. These are not zip top, but they have that re-stickable glue. So, what I like about them is that they are clear and they're not too big. So you can just re-stick, and then this is dust free. Okay, so that has been taken care of. Now the other thing I wanted to talk about was the shirt that I made. I haven't finished it yet. There's a couple things that I need to talk about. Number one is, did it relax further than 32 1/8 from the neck edge to the hem? And that is what we're going to find out right now, because it's been another, since I measured that last, it's been about 10 hours. So the way to measure something like this, of course, you have to start by hanging it properly, and that is either on clothesline with line clips, or on a coat hanger. And of course it has to be hanging up. It can't be flat like this. So I've had mine hanging up until just now, and we're going to measure again and see if it has stretched even farther, because fabric will do that. The only thing that probably would not is the thread. The fabric is cotton, and of course the thread is polyester. Alright, so from the neck edge, nope, it is 32, well, it's 32 1/4. The bottom is right here on this line right there. So I think I'm going to call it. I'm going to just say, okay, you're good. Because at this rate it'll end up at 45. How funny is that? and I'm being facetious. Okay, so the second thing I wanted to talk about was, how am I going to close it up? So the shirt actually has buttonholes and buttons on the pattern. But I noticed a couple of things. When I tried it on, it was, it didn't fit the way that I would normally want a shirt like this to fit. So, get this where it needs to be. My arms need to grow a little bit. Okay, perfect. That is absolutely perfectly straight right there. Okay. So, when I came back and looked at the drawing on here, I noticed that this shirt is not at any point shown buttoned up. And as is often the case, we forget that what we're looking at here, even though it's drawn, it's not a physical, real photo of a real person wearing the actual garment. These have to be accurate. So, like I said the other day, if the sleeves look a little bit too big and wide and wavy, and this hangs a little bit below that underarm area for you, be aware that this is what you're looking at is what you're actually going to end up with when you sew this. Like the shoulders, they do come all the way down past, and they're actually riding right along the top of her arm, and that's true on each one of the tops. It's harder to determine that on the back, but you get a better idea that there aren't any darts or shaping seams in the back. That's what the back looks like because we don't have a view of the back. You can see how long it is. It's quite long. It's a tunic top. This one, I think view C is intentionally shorter because I remember seeing that on the instructions. So because they're not buttoned up, this one, and this one, they're shown worn over a tank top or a t-shirt. I decided that because that's the way I like to wear my shirts, all of my shirts are worn over a tank top or a t-shirt, and I don't button them unless I feel like it, which is very rare. So I thought about doing a frog closure, but I was concerned about the weight of a frog stitched onto the top of, up here. I was concerned it would kind of pull the fabric because frogs can be a little bit on the heavy side. And then I remembered there was something that my favorite aunts, however you pronounce it, my grandmothers, my own mom, and at one point in my life as a young child myself, all wore, and that was a sweater clip or a cardigan clip. And I thought, wouldn't that be kind of cool? So we're going to try that out. I ordered one today. I will show you what it looks like. And get here. Okay, so this is it. This side would obviously clip on this side over here, and this side would clip on this side. I have a different picture I'll show you in just a minute. So when you're wearing it, which I think it was about like this, you can decide where, like, do you want it to be farther out? Do you want it to be close in? However you want to do it, you can clip the cardigan clip or the sweater clip to the collar on one side and have it drape across to over here. So, having said that, that's why I chose it. It gives you so many different options. It becomes far more versatile. You can do so many different things with it. So here is the other picture. As you can see, it's a little steampunk, but I have been watching Murdoch, so I don't know if you're familiar with Murdoch Mysteries, but I'm re-watching. So anyway, I think it would be kind of cool with this print, and I like the color silver. I think the silver and the blue and this particular print with that particular design will be pretty cool. And I love the fact that it's that versatile. And then if I'm not wearing this and I want to wear that with something else, voila, I can. So what's left to do with this is very minimal. I need to go ahead and do this little seam right here where I probably will do a roll and whip along this edge to keep these little hairs from annoying me. And then you fold this and you fold this and you fold, and you go all the way across right here. You're going to fold, and then you're going to just continue folding, and then you're going to stitch it. As far as this piece right here goes, the side vents, I would press open this side seam, and you can finger press. You don't have to take it to the iron unless you want to. I feel so bad. I dreamed that I got a new sewing machine. I feel so disloyal to George. Okay, so as you can see, I've basically just pinned, and what you're supposed to do is just stitch. You come up here and you pivot across this seam and you stitch all the way down, and then if you want to, you can do a secondary row just for, you know, aesthetics, however you want to do that. My recommendation is you do both of these side vents first, and then you hem. Beyond that, I don't know, I wouldn't do. I fear that if you did not do this first, it would be a mess to get this hem pretty after you've done it, if you've done the actual hem. Now to hem this, you're going to open up your facing and lay it right sides together like so, and then you'll stitch whatever stitch length or stitch, how much seam allowance you want to add. So we'll just pin that, and you'll have to measure, you know, based on your own preference there. Okay, and then you stitch here, and then you flip this way, and look what happens. It just magically pulls your hem in. I'm not going to stab myself, but you can see what I'm talking about. See? Just magically pulls it in. So you have to make sure that the amount of hem that you want is how much you stitch on this facing section. Okay. So those things will happen today. And this also has to happen. I just took a little break and went outside with Bam Bam. I will try to pop up the video that I just took of him right here. The sun is shining, I'll just put it that way. Okay, so here is another project. And I've been kind of letting ideas perk. And I finally think I have come up with one. Well, two actually. So I have a little wrought iron footstool. It's very Victorian. I've had it for probably about 21 years now. It was, I think, one of the very first things that we purchased when we moved from Kansas to the state of Washington for our house that we had bought, and we were just trying to fix it up, and we had it was so weird going from Kansas to Washington, that the style of house and all of that. But anyway, so it was a tapestry covered little precious that I bought at Everett Mall at a shop that of course now no longer exists. I would be surprised if there's anything left at that mall. But in any case, I digress. It has seen, I think, 2 or 3 cover changes, and it finally kind of bit the dust. We left it outside over at this house when we moved into here almost 2 years ago. The whole thing, you know, the little wood piece that held the cushion that was covered by the fabric all had to just go. It just got ruined. Well, I think you know where I'm going. So the other day, my husband said, you know, if you want to recover that, I have just the perfect little piece of wood, and you know, we can do it. So I'm thinking I have fabric here that would be adorable on that little. It's a kind of a egg wash white color that has been literally aged. Nobody aged it because it came painted completely. You can imagine 21 years ago, every inch of it was painted, but through the years, natural wear and tear and being left outside, it experienced some perfectly timed aging. So I'm kind of thinking maybe this one could be, I would have to be very careful about the way I cut this because this would have to be center or it would freak me out if I didn't center this, it would end up like each of these would be cut in half and this would be center. And I don't know how I would feel about that. So I'll have to see what my thoughts are on that. I'm going to preserve this print to check out the footstool project with. And this I am going to possibly make some placemats. I will have to do some measuring because I want this to be perfect. So my thoughts are this. I think what I'll have to do is just fold this up so I can show you my idea. This section will be voiceover. I pulled out 2 pieces of fabric. One is toile and one is just a rose print. And a piece of Quilter's Magic, I think. It's just batting. Okay. Then you need to cut your glamour fabric, the fabric that will show on top on your project, to 12 by 14 in my sample. I'm going to square it up. Make sure that the measurement is consistent if you're planning to do this for placemats. So you need to have 12 by 14. I decided I'm going to make a paper template. So get that sorted out, square it up, get it pretty. And then I changed my mind on the toile and I just pulled out a piece of corduroy. The reason was the toile was one-way design. Now this one needs to be bigger. It needs to be 3 inches bigger. 20 by 16, okay. I need to press this. Okay, perfect. So now the next thing I have to do is make sure that this is 3 inches and this is 3 inches and this is 3 inches and this is 3 inches. So if I put this down on my mat like this, I can see where 3 inches is, and I can measure, and I can clearly see that this needs to be right here. Okay. So now it can't move, we hope. I forgot, I've got to cut this out too. This piece, your batting, will match this piece right here, your centerpiece. So line there I can use. And you can always cut this batting piece just shy of your measurements here. And you don't have to use any kind of a basting spray on here unless you plan to do some quilting. You might want to do that if you're going to quilt this piece right here. And we might. I don't know at this point. I don't know how I feel about that yet. Alright, and then this becomes the backing for this piece right here. Okay, so at this point, if you were planning to quilt, this is when you would do that. You would take this to your sewing machine or do it by hand. And just, you know, you could run squiggle lines. That's very, very common. In fact, why not? We'll just do it. I'm so funny. Make up my mind to do it one way and turn right around and do it the other way. But that's okay. So I'm using Spray and Bond basting adhesive by peeling it back. So I sprayed it onto here, and then I just put it down along one side like so, and push with my other hand. I don't know if you can see that. This hand over here is just smoothing this down. And now I am literally just going to take this to my sewing machine and do squiggle lines this way and squiggle lines the other way. I don't know what color thread I'm going to use. What's in there is blue. So the thing to remember or realize that you might not have is that what you do to this piece, as far as the quilting goes, is not going to show up on the back of this piece. This will be left unquilted. All right, I'll be back in just a minute. It is what I just call tiggy stitching. Let me get you where you can see it. That might be nice, huh? Okay, so there it is. Just squiggly, tiggly lines. Maybe that might be too close. There we go. A little bit more visible on the back. And I'm just going to trim off these little threads. You know how I feel about threads. I'm going to actually have to pick these up with this guy, which I knew I was going to have to use. Once you get this quilted, we're going to place it on our backing fabric, and we need to make sure that it's 3 inches from each of these sides. You know, and you can fiddle and fuss with it till you got it perfect. It's one of those that, you know, you can decide how fussy you want to be. I mean, I wouldn't be terribly off, but you know, if it's just a little bit, that's okay. All right, this needs to slide. This is where, if you have one of those spinning cutting mats, it's perfect. All right, so that's 3, and that's 3. So by default, you would think, right, that the other 2 would be 3 and 3. All right. Now we want to pin this in place. And pin it, you know, in the body of the center piece that you've done, not along the edge, because we're going to stitch 1/4 of an inch all the way around, all the way. And you don't want this, you know, the centerpiece here to slide and move around. It needs to stay put. Otherwise, all that measuring for 3 inches is, you know, wasted. All right, I'm going to check it again just to make sure. So I got 3, 1, 2, 3, 3, and 3. Perfect. Okay, so let me clip off these shreddy things. And I'm just going to go over to the sewing machine and 1/4 of an inch all the way around. I will stitch, and then I'll come back. Okay, now one thing you have to remember, what you just stitched will show on the back. So if you want to match your thread to your backing fabric, you can put in a different color bobbin and stitch, you know, from the top, and that color could match your backing fabric, however you want to do that. And don't forget to remove the pins. Unfortunately, you have to make sure they're out. Okay. All right, so the next step involves cutting again, and this is where your ruler and rotary cutter will come in very handy. Now we're going to try to get 1/4 of an inch from this corner. We need to find a 45-degree angle. We're going to line that up with this side of this fabric right here, but we need to be 1/4 of an inch out from this corner. So right there, and make sure that that 45-degree line is lined up with this side right here. And then we're just going to cut this off. You can draw a line with a pencil if you want to, and then cut, you know, using a rotary blade along that line if that's easier for you. Okay, and then we're going to turn it and do the exact same thing. So look for your 45-degree line right here on your ruler. I don't know if you can see it. I'll put my hand. Maybe it'll focus. Ooh, the light's right in the way. There it is. Okay, so we need to put that 45-degree line right along this edge, the edge that's on the side you're going to cut from. We need to move out 1/4 of an inch, and there are marks that run this way, and then cut. Watching your fingers because you're cutting at at an angle, this hand can be in danger, so just be careful. All right, we're going to turn it again, and we're going to keep doing that until we get all 4 sides cut. Close up your rotary blade, or however you can get that put away. And then you have this shape. Okay? And now we're going to take this and just fold it right there. And we're going to do the same thing with this one. And we're going to pin. Okay. Then we bring this way, and we're going to match up these corners like so. And go ahead and pin. Okay. And then match up and pin, and just keep doing that. Make sure they're matching up nice. You want this edge to match up with this edge on the other side, like that. And we got one more. Okay, and it's kind of cute, isn't it? It ends up looking like something completely different than what you are making, but we're not done, so it won't stay like this. Okay, what I want to show you though is you have like this strange little box. When we're finished stitching, we will be flipping this way. We only want to stitch the corners right now. I'm only folding it this way just to show you what it looks like. Okay. You might think, but wait, you have to sew this. No, because we're going to fold these in like so. And we'll be stitching that down as well. But for the moment, we're going to turn these out and stitch. Okay, and I'll be right back. Okay, so here's the thing. I don't think I mentioned it, and I should have, but what you want to do is you want to make sure that you are lining up this folded edge with this folded edge. So when you're at the sewing machine, it looks something like this with these two folded edges. And then you're just going to start over here and aim for this corner. One thing to consider is these would be good if they were made smaller as a candle mat. If you have a candle that you don't want to leave on a piece of furniture, you could double up with your batting, or you could even use Insulbrite. Be kind of nice. Okay, so the next step is trim out this excess fabric. You don't have to cut, too deep. You can go 1/4 of an inch or so. Just make sure you're not cutting through your stitching at all. Alright, and then after we trim out those corners, we're going to flip these right side out, like so. Get our point turner. And then we'll need to press this because we want a nice crisp edge. So I'm going to take this to the ironing board and press it. And then I'm going to stitch just right along this edge. And you could do an applique stitch there if you wanted to. Doesn't have to be done by machine. I think it would look cute either way. So we'll see. Okay, so we're done. This is what the front looks like. I decided to go with a decorative stitch that I can show you on the back. But we have our perfectly mitered corners. I don't know if they're, oh, there you go. You can see it. 1, 2, 3, 4. And this is what the back looks like. There's that decorative stitch. So you could, in theory, you could use it this way or this way. Okay, I like it. So I've got these side vents stitched. I went ahead and did a double row of stitching. I just like the way that looks. And the next step, of course, would then be to fold out the front facing. Just open it up and fold it right along this stitched edge right here, where that seam allowance is, where you put the facing onto the front of the shirt, and get that straightened out like so. You may want to press it if that pressed over seam is causing some problems. And we're going to pin this down. Now the pattern says that we need 1 1/4 inch hem on the bottom of the garment, and that's kind of subjective. If you want it longer, then you can make it 1. If you want it shorter, then not by much. I wouldn't try to shorten it this much. That would be way too much to try to do. Now what's going to happen is you're going to do this front part here up to where the vent is, and then skip the back and go over and do the other front facing piece like so. Same thing to the vent, and then you'll have the back section to hem, and it will need to meet up with the 2 front pieces that you've done, both the front left and the front right. So I need to mark what I want to do as far as the hem goes, and I think maybe about 1 inch is enough. I'm going to use my Friction Heat Erase ink. I am going to put this along my cutting mat. Line it up right along that edge. Make a mark right here, and then I'm going to use my ruler okay. Alright, I'm going to stitch this, and when I come back I'll show you what that looks like. So once you get that little area sewn, stitched, whatever you want to call it, you can see quite clearly that there's a lot of fabric in here that needs to be clipped out, but you want to be very careful about trimming this. Also, however you want to finish the edge along this section, you also have to consider that as well. So what I usually do is I'm going to simply cut this piece, the facing piece, about here, like so. And then I'm going to trim this corner right here, like so. I do have a wild thread. Okay, and this thread. And now when I turn this out, it won't be as bulky, and I will not have damaged the integrity of this fold right here. The next step is, we know that this is going to be folding in, so if we want to, we can fold and press this lower edge like so. And then when we fold it in, we'll have a pre-folded hem. So let me go do that, and I'll be back in just a second. Now that this has been turned out, I am going to take my point turner and do a pretty job of getting that turned out. Just carefully. Okay. And then, while it was still flipped to the other side, I folded in this edge right here, the raw edge, and then I flipped this to the right side out and went ahead and finished up this fold and press. And now I will stitch. You don't always have to stitch across here. You can leave this unstitched and then begin your stitching in this area, or you can stitch all the way across. To be honest, I don't remember what the pattern suggested, so let's just take a quick look at that and see. Can I see it on here? It looks like they go all the way across on these three versions, so I kind of don't need to open the pattern to check. I can see it as clear as day. They've gone all the way across, and on this one as well, they've gone all the way across. I can't really see it on this one because the fabric and the thread match, but I think that's how I want to do it anyway, because that also helps keep this facing from flipping to the outside. Alright, so here's my hack. I have two front pieces that are separate from the back piece. Let me back you up so you can see what I'm talking about. So the front side, the front right side, and the front left side, and they have to match up down here at the hem. So because the back is separated due to the vent that we created on each side, I have a great way to make sure that the right side and the left side are exactly the same length, because it would look funny if one were, you know, longer or shorter, however you want to look at it. So to make this easy for myself, and this is an easy pattern, so we shouldn't really be, you know, fussing about all these ridiculous details. We're just going to clip the two front sections together. They won't move, they'll be exactly the same length, and then I can just draw a line. And on this line, I'm using my friction ink. It will disappear. And I'm doing it on the inside of the jacket. And that is what I know needs to be the finished line. That's where my hem needs to end up, because this one is completed and this one needs to match it when it's done. Okay, and then remember, we're just going to trim off the facing section, not the shirt part, just this extra heavy facing. And I'll just trim this out like that. And you can trim into that corner if you want to. I'm not real thrilled about doing it, but I could clip into it like that. That'll help it lay flat. Alright, so I've done this part. Now all I have to do is fold this under, press it, and then fold this under, press it, and then stitch. So those two hems on the front are done, the front right and the front left, and they are even with each other. So I can take these clips off. Alright guys, so I tried it on. I adore it. The thing is, I don't want to show it to you until I have all of the parts. So what I decided is the sleeves. I think the sleeves are about 2 inches. Yeah, they are about 2 inches too long. So I'm trying to decide if I really want to turn under an inch and then another inch. That's, I don't know. But the other option for these sleeves that I'm kind of kicking around is to create kind of a matching vent. So just kind of rework the bottom of the sleeve so that it has a little vent right here. And then they would just fold back. You know, I'd still have to hem them, but they would fold back, you know, kind of the way I do my sleeves. So I'm thinking that's what I'm going to do. And in that case, I'll have to remove stitching up to about here, in that range. So I'm going to go ahead, do that, wait until, I believe it was Monday, that the cardigan clasp is supposed to arrive. But I wanted to give you guys, I told you, my mind has been like in overdrive thinking about these things. Hang on just a minute. So you know how you can go to like Hobby Lobby and you can buy jewelry, chain. So this literally is the back of the steampunk cardigan clasp that I purchased. So look what I have. I have one. I have just oodles of these. So this is the wrong color, but there's pearl with these, you know, pretend gems. These were purchased at Hobby Lobby. So honestly, you could put chain on this one and chain on this one, and you would have essentially what I was looking at for $2.99 on Amazon, literally with the chain. Now granted, most of them had a piece that like this that was identical to this one, or this one which was identical to the other, so they were a matching set. They clearly went together. I just don't even know what to think about this. But this is the part right here that was glued to the cogs and wheels and, you know, whatnot, gears. I don't know, my brain is just swirling. I'm thinking and thinking and thinking. I mean, you could really go all themey. You could have like plants, you could have dogs, you could have cats, horses, elephants, the sun, the moon, the stars. cooking, sewing. I actually saw some that had a double chain. So you would connect, you know, here, and then you would have the other side over here connected, but there would be a smaller chain here and then a longer chain drooping down. When the piece of jewelry arrives, we will be set. I will show you what it all looks like together. In the meantime, today is Friday. It is April the 16th. Yeah, wow. Man, this year's just cooking. It is 2021, by the way, and that is significant for a lot of reasons. But anyway, I hope that you have a wonderful weekend. I hope that this video was helpful, that you got some good tips and tricks and ideas about things and ways that you can do something for your own sewing room or for your own project. And I'm trying to remember, there was one other thing. Oh, I wanted to mention another little tippy, tricky thingy, and that is when you're ironing something, let's say it's difficult to press. This fabric, while it is supposed to be 100% cotton, acts like polyester at the ironing board until it gets really hot. So I may have mentioned this before in another video, but if you need your fabric to be pressed and heat from the top isn't really doing it, in other words, this is your ironing board, this is your fabric, and you're ironing like this and it's just not working, iron your ironing board, put your fabric down, and then iron from the top. And sometimes the extra heat, because I don't know about you, but I've actually burned my hand on the ironing board. If it gets hot, it will definitely burn you. So you can get that surface really hot, put the fabric down, and iron from the top, and you'll probably have a little bit better success. So that's the last tippy tricky thingy of the day. Anyway, have a great weekend. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up, and if you haven't already subscribed, please consider doing so. Like I said at the beginning of this video, thank you so much for subscribing. I really appreciate it, and I hope you have a great weekend. Bye.